I woke up with a pounding headache and the taste of someone else's lips still clinging to mine. The smell of musk-rich, intoxicating, unmistakably alpha still lingered on my skin. And here's the kicker. I didn't even remember his face. That's what I get for letting myself drink that much whiskey. Omega instincts are a curse. When you're drunk, your body makes choices your mind never would. What I didn't expect was that the stranger I'd marked in a haze of alcohol and reckless need would be standing in front of me less than 12 hours later, introducing himself as the new CEO of the company I worked for. "Good morning, everyone," he said smoothly, his deep voice carrying through the boardroom. "I'm Ethan Blackwell, and I'll be taking over as your director effective immediately." I nearly choked on my coffee. Ethan Blackwell, the man I had bitten, the alpha whose scent was still burned into every nerve of my body. My boss. My heart hammered against my ribs, and I felt a drop of sweat slide down my temple. Omegas weren't supposed to mark alphas casually, especially not strangers, especially not someone who could end your career with a single signature. His eyes swept over the room like he owned it, and then they stopped. On me. It wasn't recognition, not exactly. More like curiosity, sharp and unsettling. The kind of look that made the skin at the back of my neck prickle. I forced myself to sit still, shoulders squared, trying to look like any other mid-level employee in a sea of suits. But I knew. My body knew. That pull, that unbearable magnetism wasn't my imagination. The day dragged like a bad hangover. My coworkers buzzed with excitement over how young and strikingly handsome the new boss was. Whispers of his reputation brilliant, ruthless, untouchable circulated in the office halls. I kept my head down, typing reports, pretending the whole world wasn't collapsing inside my chest. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. By late afternoon, my inbox pinged with a direct message from him. "My office. 5 p.m. I stared at the screen, numb. Nobody gets summoned by the CEO on their first day. Nobody. By 4:59, my palms were sweaty, my heart racing so hard it felt like everyone in the office could hear it. I pushed open the heavy glass door to his corner office, the city skyline glittering behind him like something out of a movie. "Close the door," he said without looking up. I obeyed, my throat dry. When he finally raised his eyes to meet mine, it felt like the floor shifted. The same eyes I'd seen in flickers of drunken memory, dark, steady, burning with something unspoken. "You," he said simply, leaning back in his chair. "We need to talk." "About last night," I blurted out before I could stop myself. His brows arched just a fraction. "So you do remember." The air left my lungs. My knees nearly buckled, but I forced myself to stand straight. I don't remember everything, just pieces." He rose from his chair, moving with the kind of confidence only an alpha like him could carry. Each step brought him closer, until he was standing just a breath away. His scent crashed over me again, darker, sharper in sobriety. My body betrayed me, shivering, every nerve drawn to him like a flame. "Pieces," he repeated, his voice low. "Then let me make something clear. You marked me. An omega marking an alpha isn't exactly subtle." His gaze lingered on my neck, as if he could see the ghost of what I'd done. "I didn't mean to," I whispered, shame heating my face. "I was drunk. I wasn't thinking. It wasn't supposed to happen." He tilted his head, studying me like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. Then, unexpectedly, he gave a short, dry laugh. "Life's funny like that. I came to this city to run a company, not to wake up with a stranger's bite on my skin." The air was thick between us, heavy with the weight of choices neither of us had meant to make. "So what happens now?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my best effort. For a long moment he didn't answer. Then his hand brushed against mine, subtle but deliberate. A spark shot up my arm. "That," he murmured, his lips curling into something between a smirk and a promise, "depends on how badly you want to keep pretending last night didn't happen." The days that followed were a living hell. Every meeting, every hallway, every accidental brush of shoulders felt like a battlefield. My body responded to him instinctively, heart racing, breath quickening, the faintest tremor in my hands. And he knew. Of course he knew. Alphas always know. But Ethan wasn't reckless. He didn't push, didn't corner me in ways that could be dismissed as abuse of power. No, he was far too controlled for that. Instead, he waited. He lingered just close enough for me to feel him, to crave him, but never close enough for me to call him out. At night, I lay awake in my apartment, replaying the fragments of that drunken night. His hand gripping my waist, my lips pressed to his throat, the low growl of his voice against my ear. Shame and desire twisted inside me like a knife. I wanted him. God help me, I wanted him. But wanting him meant stepping into a world I wasn't sure I could survive. Because in the Omegaverse, bonds aren't just about sex. They're about power, control, destiny. And an Omega like me, with nothing but a middle-class salary and a fragile sense of independence, couldn't afford to tie himself to a man like Ethan Blackwell. But fate, as I was learning, doesn't care about what we can afford. Ethan's presence was like gravity, inevitable, undeniable, pulling me closer no matter how hard I fought it. Weeks passed, and the lines blurred between work and whatever this was. He would lean too close during meetings, his cologne and pheromones making my pulse trip. He would brush my shoulder in the elevator, just enough to remind me he was there. And sometimes his eyes softened when they found mine, like he wanted to say something but swallowed it back. I told myself I could resist, that I could keep my job, my dignity, my fragile independence. But then came the night everything unraveled. It was after a brutal late shift. Most of the office had gone home, but I stayed behind, poring over spreadsheets under the glow of my desk lamp. My eyelids were heavy, my fingers sore from typing, when his voice cut through the silence. "You're still here." I jumped, nearly spilling my coffee. Ethan stood in the doorway, jacket slung casually over his shoulder, his tie loosened. He looked less like a CEO and more like a man who'd carried the weight of the world all day. "Deadlines?" I muttered, my voice too thin, too shaky. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The click echoed like a verdict. "You work too hard." I forced a laugh. "That's rich coming from you." His lips twitched into something that wasn't quite a smile. He came closer, the air thick with his presence. My body betrayed me, very nerve lit up, instinct screaming to lean into him. "I've been patient," he said quietly, almost to himself. "I thought maybe if I gave you space, you'd come to me when you were ready." My throat closed up. "Ethan, but you're not coming," he continued, eyes sharp, burning. "You're hiding. From me. From this." My chest tightened. Panic clawed at me. "I can't," he cut me off by slamming his hand down on my desk, leaning in close, his scent wrapped around me, dizzying, consuming. "You marked me," he growled, his voice low and rough. "Do you have any idea what that means? Do you have any idea what it's doing to Muhat, it's doing to you?" Tears stung at the back of my eyes. "It was a mistake. I didn't choose you. I didn't mean, you think I chose this?" His voice cracked, just barely. "You think I plan to walk into this city and find myself bound to some terrified Omega who won't even look me in the eye?" I flinched, but his hand softened, sliding over mine. His touch was warm, trembling. "But here we are," he whispered. "And I can't undo it. Neither can you." Silence pressed in around us. I felt the heat of his body, the truth in his words. He was right. The bond wasn't something you could wish away. It was inside me, thrumming like a second heartbeat. My voice broke. "I'm scared." "I know." His eyes softened, raw with honesty. "So am I." And then his lips were on mine. The kiss shattered every wall I'd built. It was desperate, aching, full of everything we'd been holding back. My fingers curled into his shirt, pulling him closer, and he groaned against my mouth like he'd been starving for me. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was a storm, years of loneliness and fear colliding into something bigger than both of us. When he finally pulled back, his forehead resting against mine, we were both shaking. "This isn't just about instinct," he whispered. "Don't you get it? I want you." The words sliced through me. because I wanted him too. And wanting him meant surrendering everything I thought I knew about control. But the world doesn't let love bloom without consequences. Rumors spread like wildfire. Whispers in the office about the CEO spending too much time around one particular employee. People noticed the looks, the tension, the heat that flared whenever we were in the same room. One afternoon, I was cornered in the break room by a colleague, Sarah, her voice sharp with envy. "So it's true, huh? Sleeping your way up the ladder. Classic Omega move." The words cut deep, sharper than I expected. My hands trembled around my coffee cup. "I'm not." "Save it," she sneered. "Everyone sees it. You think you're special, but when he's done with you, where will you be? Back at your desk, disposable as the rest of us." I fled before she could see the tears burning my eyes. That night, I told Ethan we had to stop. He stared at me like I'd ripped the ground out from under him. "Stop. It's too much," I choked out. "People know. They're talking. I can't be that. I can't be your weakness." His jaw clenched. "You think you're my weakness? Aren't I?" My voice cracked. "If anyone finds out, if the board knows, they'll use it against you. Against us. I can't ruin you." He stepped forward, his hands gripping my shoulders with a fierceness that made my breath hitch. "Listen to me. You are not my weakness." "Then what am I?" I demanded, tears spilling over. His eyes burned, fierce and unyielding. "You're the only thing keeping me alive." My heart broke. "I can't lose you," he whispered, voice ragged. "Don't you understand? I've built empires, destroyed competitors, but nothing terrifies me like the thought of waking up tomorrow and not having you in my life." I sobbed, burying my face against his chest. His arms wrapped around me, unshakable, unrelenting, like he'd never let go. And maybe, for the first time, I believed him. The weeks that followed were chaos both outside and inside. The board caught wind of our bond, and the backlash was brutal. Articles whispered scandal. Investors threatened to pull out. Ethan stood tall through it all, refusing to let them see weakness. But at night, in the quiet of his penthouse, he held me close, whispering promises against my skin. That we'd survive, that we'd fight, that he wasn't letting go. And slowly, I began to believe in us. The breaking point came when the board staged a vote to remove him. The scandal was too big, they argued. An Omega affair? It threatened the company's reputation, its credibility. I watched him walk into that boardroom, head high, every inch the alpha who had clawed his way to the top. And I knew I couldn't stay silent. So I stood too. I told them the truth, that it wasn't an affair, that it wasn't manipulation, that it was a bond, forged in mistake, maybe, but grown into love, that I loved him, that I would choose him every single time. The room was stunned into silence. For the first time, I wasn't just an employee or an Omega. I was his equal, standing beside him. And in that silence, Ethan reached for my hand. "Gentlemen," he said calmly, his voice steady, "if love is enough to destroy this company, then maybe it's not worth saving." And just like that, he walked out pulling me with him. We didn't lose everything. The company survived, reshaped under his uncompromising leadership. The board bent, investors returned, and whispers faded. But none of that mattered as much as the look in his eyes when we collapsed into bed that night, exhausted but victorious. "You saved me," he murmured, his lips brushing my temple. "No," I whispered back, tracing the scar of my bite on his neck. "We saved each other." Months later, on a quiet morning bathed in golden light, I woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of his laughter echoing from the kitchen. I padded in, hair messy, still half asleep, and found him leaning against the counter, mug in hand. "Morning," he said, his smile soft, his eyes only for me. Something inside me ached with a sweetness I'd never known. This man, this impossible, infuriating, irresistible alpha was mine. Not because of instinct, not because of a mistake, but because we chose each other. I crossed the kitchen and wrapped my arms around his waist, burying my face against his chest. He kissed the top of my head, his fingers brushing through my hair. "I love you," I whispered. "I know," he murmured, pulling me closer. "I love you too." And in that moment, the chaos of the world melted away. There was only us two men bound by mistake, forged by fire, and finally whole. Because sometimes love isn't about choosing the right path. It's about stumbling into the wrong one and finding home anyway. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.